right, you guys, welcome. Thank you so very much for tuning in to Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio as well as Facebook Live. I do apologize for the lateness, but I was at service. We had a wonderful time, and to God be the glory. I live by the rules. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I have a 25-year-old son. He doesn't live in my house, but he does attend church with me every so often, and he joins. He felt the pulling on his heart, so I just thank God for that. And of course, I could not leave. You have to stay there as the mother. You have to stay, and you have to see your seed take that step. And again, no apologies for it, other than the fact that I do know my obligations here to the show Sister's Heart. So listen, with me even saying that takes me to our topic today. It's a form of a question. Why do women kill their children? Just the other day on our Facebook page, Sister's Heart, I posted a story with regards to a woman who just recently did such a thing. And when I started to dig into it and gather more information and do my own research, it is actually far too common than what we realize. Statistically, they say there is a child that's murdered by their parent, more specifically their mother. It's one child every 3 days. That is alarming. It really breaks your heart. And as I said, to see my son today at 25, coming into his own, being all that he can be, I cannot imagine for 1 second doing him bodily harm. I can't imagine for 1 second hurting him to the degree that I take his life. It just does not make any sense. Listen, we're going to take ourselves a really quick break, 30 seconds. Again, this is Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio. This is a serious topic today. There's going to be no laughing here. I really am asking the question, why do women kill their children? We're going to talk about it. You can chime in on Facebook if you want to, as well as on the website, IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio. My name is Kim, and we'll be right back, 30 seconds. Once again, you have tuned into Sister's Heart, excuse me, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio. I am your host, Kim, and I am asking the question. It is $1 million question. Why are women killing their children? I just want to run over some names. These are some infamous names, you guys. Christine, and these are just a few. When I started to think about presenting this topic for the show, I wanted to do my research. I wanted to look into the statistics and see how and why is this happening, and you will be surprised. Christine Clark, this is a new name. Her actions and allegations, she has not yet to go before the judicial system. However, Christine Clark, Maribella Taulo, China Arnold, infamous names, Susan Smith, Lakeisha Baker, Nicole Kelly, Hu Chen, Stacy Parson. The list goes on and on and on with regards to women, mothers that have given birth and decided for whatever reason to murder their children. And statistically, what they've done is they looked at several different factors, right? They've said that they've broken it down to reasons that mothers would kill. And there's a few general categories. And when I say they're general, they are, right? The first category is mental illness. That one would be the most obvious one, mental illness, right? And that comes in all different forms. You could be suffering from depression, postpartum depression. It could just be mental illness, by birth defect yourself. The next category is abuse or neglect. Abusing your children. Mothers get frustrated. Their children won't stop crying, or mothers neglect their children to the degree that, they may not give them the proper nourishment. Unwanted. Just don't want the child, and it's to no fault of the child. Just don't want the child. And that one was very specific. It was very cut and dry, just unwanted. And then the next one that really stood out the most to me, because this one, along with mental illness, tends to be the most common one. Excuse me, and hear me when I say this, it's retaliation. It's women are retaliating against the father of their children, and they're using the child as the source, or more or less the receiver of that retaliation, because they, for whatever reason, are upset, not really, no longer with the father of the child. The father of the child or them may have had an argument. In some cases, that was the situation. And because of that, the mothers have taken it upon themselves to kill their own child. And I can't understand that. I can't fathom it to save my life. They have a fancy name for it, right? It's called filicide. And filicide is when a parent kills a child or their children, more than one. And as I said, statistically, they say that this happens once every 3 days. So once, mark it on the calendar. So once every 3 days, a child in this country is being murdered by their own mother. How can a woman, and for those of us that have children, we've born children, we've nurtured these babies in our bodies, we've carried them for 9 months, 8 months, whatever the term was, premature, full term, whatever it was. How can a woman be driven to kill her own babies? From reasons of insanity all the way to revenge. How can that happen? I gave you a few names, right? Marabella Taulo, and look at the names. Even when you hear the names, we're talking not just within our African American communities. This is across the board, okay? Marabella Taulo, she put her baby in a microwave, and it's estimated from 2 to 5 minutes to die because she just didn't want the child anymore. Like, that was her reasoning. She just did not want the child anymore. Then you have China Arnold. She too put her baby in a microwave and left the baby to die. And her reasons were because she was angry at the child's father. Nothing to do with the baby, just the baby belonged to the father, and she was angry at him. And for that reason, she put her child in the microwave and she killed their baby. Then we have Lakeisha Baker. And this particular story, this is another story that was here in Illinois, as a matter of fact, in the Maywood area. Along with her new boyfriend, she beat her child with hangers and a belt and left him on the floor in the bathroom to die. And when the baby did die, put the baby in a backpack and tossed him out like he was garbage in the river. Horrific. Doesn't make sense. Susan Smith, she strapped her 2 little sons into car seats and let her car roll into a lake. She just didn't want them. She was starting a new life. She was no longer with the father of those children, and she didn't want to have the burden or the responsibility of having these children around. And her particular case made worldwide news because her allegations were that she was carjacked by a black man. So here you had from the southeast coast of the country all the way up to the Midwest was this mad manhunt for a black man driving around, I believe it was a Toyota, with two little babies strapped in car seats, and then come to find out that they literally had drowned in a river that she, of course, in terms of murdering them, allowed them to drown in because she rolled her car into the lake. And then, of course, Nicole Kelly, after her relationship was over with the father of her children, Nicole was quoted by the detectives when she was interviewed and saying that she just didn't want the baby anymore. 11-month-old baby, she just didn't want the baby anymore. Hu Chen, this woman, and when I read this and got the information on this, broke my heart. This particular woman took her 1-year-old baby and threw it in front of a 40-ton moving truck, and the baby was crushed after arguing with the baby's father. That's all it was. It was an argument, and she snapped and threw her 1-year-old baby basically in front of moving traffic. And then Stacey Parsons, this woman, she murdered her daughter, her baby, because of jealousy. She felt that the baby's father, this is the father of her child, she felt that the baby's father was spending more time with his child than he was with her. And she murdered her baby for that reason. Women, we say this all the time, and I've been hearing it in the churches all the time, that it's praying time, that we have to pray. I would like to say that we have to do more than pray. We have to now, literally, in my mind, in my opinion, in my assessment, our hearts have to bleed. Our eyes have to literally cry like rivers because of this evilness that has swept our land. The day that women, in terms of the statistics, every 3 days, the day that women no longer see themselves as nurturers, but are killing their children for reasons, as I stated, these reasons that I outlined had nothing to do with mental illness. These reasonings were because they were angry. They were angry at the father of their children, and they took it out upon the children. The day when women don't see themselves as nurturers, you don't even have to have children to be a nurturer. It's just how women are designed. It's how we were made. We are nurturers just by nature. That's what we do. Hence why a lot of us have these relationships that we go into, and we're with these men, and they are not what we think that they are, and we are procreating with them. We're having children with them. And when you have children with them, the responsibility, if that man leaves, is now on you as the woman. And when we see these cases where these women are angry and they're taking it out on these babies, there is really something wrong. There's really something wrong. And then the last one, and I want to read this one. This was the one, as I said, if you're following us, Sisters Heart on Facebook, is Christian Clark. And Christian Clark, she had 2 kids by this man, but one she murdered. She choked the life out of her baby boy, and she was angry at the father because he had allegedly moved on from their relationship. He was supposedly dating someone else. He wasn't responding to her text messages. He wasn't responding to her calls. She was allegedly sending him text messages, letting him know what she was going to do to these children. And after she successfully killed the first baby, she sent him a text to let him know that his daughter, the second child, that her lungs must be strong because the baby did not die. And her attitude and disposition was, oh, well. Oh, well. Women, and Sisters Heart tends to cater towards women. You know, the goal of the show is for women's hearts to be healed. We really have to see the damage in our hearts as women, as people in general, where we are not crying in the streets over such careless and malicious acts towards our children. We have to do that. We have to see this. It is beyond comprehension. It is beyond understanding that we're not crying out, and that there's not mourning for women collectively when we see another woman do this to her children in the churches, in our school systems, in our homes, wherever. We have to, as women, I keep going back to the fact that we're women, because remember, back in the day, they used to say, mama's baby, daddy's maybe. As women, these are our children. When I think of this lady, Christian Clark, and murdering her baby, that's my baby. The next generation of our babies. When we think of these children that are so just being tossed around as though they're nothing and that they're expendable, it saddens my heart, it hurts my heart, and we have to ask ourselves, why are women doing this? Can we talk about it? Can we really be real about what's going on when we as women, again, choose these men to have these relationships with? My guest last week, Apostle Robert Holliday, he said it so eloquently. We're broken. And we're trying to connect with another broken person, and we're not allowing ourselves to properly heal. So when you are not healed and when you are not whole yourself, and then you procreate with someone who is not healed and broken, think about it. Christian Clark texted the man, and she called him. She texted him and told him what she was going to do to his children, and he never moved. He didn't get the oomph to say, let me go see about my seed. Women, the mistake was not with that man, but it was with her, because that was the man that she chose to have children with, and her baby should have never paid the ultimate price for that. We are going to take ourselves a quick break. Promise you, just 30 seconds. I want to come back and I want to really, really go into this with regards to the why. And again, this is on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio. You can put comments out there, or you can also on Facebook Live give me some comments. I want to know your thoughts and your opinions on why are women killing their children, and what can we as a people do about it collectively, because it's not just African Americans, it's truly all races. What's going on? I'm your host, Kim, and we'll be right back. 30 seconds. Again, you have tuned in to Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio, as well as Facebook Live. I'm your host, Kim, and I'm asking the question today with regards to women. Why are women killing their children? Why is this so common? I share with you the statistics. It is said that once every 3 days, a child is murdered at the hands of the parent. And more specifically, what we're seeing, it's because it's men and women alike, but it's more so mothers killing their children. And the reasons behind mothers killing their children, two of the greatest reasons was, one, mental illness, postpartum depression. But the greatest one was just retaliation. They were mad at the father of their children, and they were killing their kids for that reason. And that in itself, that's, as Sister Winter says here, is demonic. It is demonic. How can you love a man, or let me say this, how can you hate a man? I'll say it that way. How can you hate a man more than you love your own flesh and blood? How? Because that man is not guaranteed to be with you. He's not guaranteed to stay with you. And, back in the day, they used to say mama's baby, daddy's maybe. Now, he could look like his daddy, from sun up to sundown, look like the man carried him. But that does not mean that that man is going to stay there. And realistically, in terms of how women are designed, we're nurtures by heart, we're nurtures by spirit, we're nurtures from the beginning, we're nurtures from the womb. So it's our job. It is our job to care for our children. It is our job to be there for our children. I'll never forget, excuse me, when when I had my first son, and my husband, who was my ex-husband, I apologize, my ex-husband, who's the father of my two children, my two boys. We were at the tail end of our relationship, and we were looking at divorcing. And I'll never forget, it never crossed my mind to hurt my children. Now, what I did tell him was, if you're going, take your kids with you. And I said it and I meant it, Earl. I did. Take your kids with you if you're going, which he didn't. And of course, they stayed with me, and I took care of my kids. I loved my kids. I loved on my children, because I saw me long before I saw them. And that's the part, that's the disconnect. When you think of a woman who could take her hands and her bare hands and choke the life out of her own child, you have to see yourself. You're killing yourself. Do you hate yourself, woman, that much that it's easy for you, as they have this fancy word, to commit filicide on your own child? Do you hate who you are as a person that much that him leaving you, them not wanting to be with you any longer, means more in terms of hurting them than to just let them go? You can live another day, you and your children. You can have a better tomorrow, you and your children. Your life, your hope, and all your dreams and expectations does not have to rest with one person who 9 times out of 10 is broken within themselves in the first place, to give you and your child a better way and a better life. And like I said, we know people that have had or right now are struggling with mental illnesses, depression, like I said, postpartum depression. And these women legitimately need help. And I'll never take that away from them. They need help. They need assistance. They need support. Mental illness is not a choice. Okay, let's make sure we understand that. Mental illness is not a choice. However, getting treatment is. Okay, so when you recognize that you got some things going on in your head, you're not thinking straight, get yourself some help. If you know someone that has things going on in their head, they're not talking the right way, they're saying things that doesn't make sense, get them some help, and get them some help quickly, because the ideal that they could go from 0 to 60 and take the life of their child, man, it's enough to leave you in shock. But we know that is happening. We see that is happening. It's happening every day in the lives of these children that should be loved and protected within their home, and they're being murdered at the hands of their fathers, or in most cases their mothers. Okay, and I say again, Lord have mercy. What are we going to do? And whatever it is that we're going to do by way of recognizing and getting people help, we have to do it quickly. And it all goes back to loving yourself. We think about, as they used to talk about, the 90s babies or the 80s babies, and then they look and see the generation behind them and why it's gotten to the point that it is. It all makes sense, because we have women that in some cases, if they have not killed their child, then they may just outright abandon their child emotionally. You have a lot of emotionally detached children. They're almost like the Walking Dead. They're here. We say how they don't have respect for older people or adults. Well, guess what? Because the adults in their home may not necessarily be sharing them the love or the compassion that they need. So it's definitely a cycle. It's a vicious cycle. It's a cycle, I believe that's birthed from hell itself. And we as believers, we as women, we as mothers, we have to cry loud and cry till God hears us so that this cycle can be broken over the lives of these babies, because we're talking about a generation. So now here I'm going with it, right? Because we know, because the word tells us that God raises up a generation that will obey him. But if Satan is using mothers out the door to kill off a generation, she's killing off her own generation. If he's using mothers to do that, I'm talking about Satan using women to do that. Satan also uses men, so I'm not going to, exclude the men from this. But when these parents are being used to kill off their own children for reasons that have no validity, the reasons just don't make sense. We argued, so now I throw my baby in front of a moving vehicle. If Satan is using these people to kill off their seed, then what we're talking about is a generational gap. And that's where we as believers, we have to stand in the gap for these children. We have to do what's necessary. Grandmothers, grandfathers, protecting your children's children. When you see that they are out of line, when you see that they are out of order, when you see, you know what it looks like if they're not nurturing those children. And I'm not talking about buying them Jordans and making sure that they have the latest outfit on. I'm talking about nurturing these children so that they can be all that they are called and chosen to be. I'm talking about true nurturing, talking to them, reading to them. You know, you look on Facebook and you see how you have mothers posted up and they have on, their undergarments and their children are in the pictures. You see on Facebook, and yeah, I'm talking about Facebook. You see on Facebook how, and I've seen this, my Lord have mercy, where women are, in having sexual acts and their children are in the room with them. There is a disconnect with regards to what we are designed to do as women. And again, we're talking about nurturing. So how can we kill them? And when I say kill them, these deaths that I'm talking about, these are physical. This is physical, but there's also spiritual deaths that we have to be aware of for our children. And it's happening every day. And they said 1 every 3 days a child is dying, and at the hands of their mother, their own mother. I'm going to take myself another quick break, you guys. I will be back in about 30 seconds. Again, this is Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio, as well as Facebook Live. How can a mother kill her own children? Thank you again, once again, for tuning in to Sisters Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio, as well as Facebook Live. I am your host, Lady Kim, and I was asking the question today again of why do women kill their children? Realistically, you can't even cover this in just one show because there's so much more information that I have that I really want to share with you. But again, it's so mind-boggling, and it's so unreal that we are seeing that this is happening, and it's happening so often. It's so frequent. it doesn't make sense to me that as people, just in general, we're not somewhere crying out loud, and literally our hearts, I say it again, our hearts should be bleeding with tears when we think of mothers killing their children and the reasons that they're killing their children. They're killing their children because they're upset, because a relationship has gone bad. They're killing their children because a man has left them. They're killing their children because they think that a man has left them. One case, a woman was killing her children because she was afraid that he didn't want any more children. Lady, you don't kill your children, you leave the man. But she wanted that relationship so desperately. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. And I promise you, we don't have the answers, but I do believe that God has the answers. I do believe that God is an all-seeing and all-knowing God, and he is in control. And we as a body collectively have to come. I don't care how you do it, how many pockets of people do it, whatever, and truly pray. And I'm not talking about playing. I'm talking about truly praying and seeking after the things of God so that our land, our hearts as women can be healed. I said this last week. We want men to have a standard. We say it all the time, man up, but we want women up. We won't woman up. We won't do what we need to do as women. We won't do what we need to do as mothers to protect our children. I share with you with regards to one case, the lady and her new boyfriend, it wasn't even the baby's father. She held her baby down and covered his mouth while the man beat the baby to death. This was the baby's mother watching someone murder her baby. Now, any sane woman would have killed the man. Any woman with self-esteem would have killed the man. Any woman that was confident with regards to who she was and knew that, look, if this man leave me today, I can find me another one tomorrow, would have put a pause on that man. But this woman's self-esteem was so low as a mother that she allowed this man to beat her baby to death while she held the child down. That's something wrong with your heart. That's something wrong with your spirit. That's something wrong with your self-esteem. And you as a woman need help, because nothing and no one should ever come before your children. Nothing and no one. Listen, like I said, this is far too much to go through in just one day. I got some more that I wanted to talk about, but I do see that Nikki Laughing Out Loud has come into the studio, and I don't want to go over my time with regards to her time, and I do want to be able to come back. I want to do a part 2 to this. I want to have some guests on my panel next week, and we want to talk about it, because truly this is Sister's Heart. Can we talk? So I'm going to bring this part of this show to the end. I love each and every last one of you with the love of God. I am praying for our people. I am praying for our city. If you have not voted, please go out and vote. Tuesday is the big day. We're going to know one way or the other what our nation, our country is going to look like on Wednesday, okay? Don't be afraid, and do not allow fear to drive your decision. Drive your decision basically on your own moral principles. So again, my name is Kim, and I am your host here at Sister's Heart, where we stream live on IntellectualRadio.com via iHeartRadio and iHeartRadio Show. If you are tuned on via the IntellectualRadio.com, don't tune off. Nikki with Laughing Out Loud is in the studio, and I believe she has a guest. I saw a young man come in. So listen, I'll see you guys next week. God bless you for tuning in on Facebook Live. Love you all as well, and I'll see you next week. Until then, to God be the glory. Okay? Thank you.
That's how God made. That's how God made us.